Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Jarvis here again. This time I'm here to go and review my favorite non-legendary creature cards from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Last time we did the favorite legendary creatures, so the top 10 that can be your commander. This time we're doing all the cards that can't be your commander. Because I make the list, I didn't go and lock myself to only 10 because if you ever see me build decks, I always go overboard and then force myself to cut it to a playable deck. Since this is my list and there's no such thing as a playable list, I don't have to force myself to cut any cards. Also, to keep in mind, this list is going to be rated isn't going to be rated in any way. It's going to be listed as WUBRG multicolored artifact lands. Before we get into it, though, I wanted to remind you to please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you could go and follow me on twitch.tv/Jarvis_Moonbeam, you'll see me playing Commander there at least once a week and doing a ton of arena content as well. Follow me on Twitch and Instagram at Jarvis_Moonbeam. And finally, join my Discord. The link for that will be in the description of the video. But getting into these cards, the first one is Cloudsteel Kirin. 2 and a white. Artifact, Creature, Equipment Kirin, that's a 3/2. Has flying. Equipped creature has flying and you can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game. Has Reconfigure 5. Reconfigure is a new mechanic where it essentially equips this creature to another creature and Cloudsteel Kirin is no longer a creature then. What I love about this is the you can't lose the game, your opponents can't win the game text. It's the same reason why you play cards like Platinum Angel. And the fact that when it's equipped, it's no longer a creature, it survives board wipes, making this one of my favorite cards in the set just for that reason. Next card, Farewell. 4 white. Sorcery. Choose one or more, so you can choose all of them. Exile all artifacts, all creatures, all enchantments, or all graveyards. So, Austere Command, Merciless Eviction. Both 6 mana spells. Only let you choose 1 or 2 of the modes. This lets you choose all 4. This is probably my favorite board wipe that Wizards has put out for Commander in the past 2 years. Because the only thing it doesn't hit is Planeswalkers. So this makes it perfect for a Planeswalker deck. This makes it perfect for pretty much any all-white decks. Or pretty much if you're playing white and you're not playing anything more than 3 colors, this is probably my board wipe of choice. And actually, probably even 3 and 4 or 5 color decks, this probably might be the board wipe I go for. It's just really, really, really good, and I love that it gave us Graveyard Hate. Next is Covert Technician, 2 and a blue. Artifact creature, Human Ninja. Ninjutsu, 1 and a blue. It's a 2/4. That whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may put an artifact card with mana value less than or equal to that damage from your hand onto the battlefield. So this reminds me kind of like Thieving Skydiver, where you kick it, you get to steal from an opponent, or it just gives you ramp. What I like about this is you play a 1-drop turn 1, play this turn 2, ninjutsu this in on turn 2, you get to go and put a Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, one of the charcoal, moss, those diamonds. You get to go and play a Shadow Spear, Mana Crypts, any of those kind of 0 to 2 drop artifacts. You get to go and put it into the battlefield for free. So this just goes and gets you so much value right away. And then if your opponent, for whatever reason, isn't going and playing blockers, and you could go and swing it on turn 3, it's even better. Now, you could also put artifact creatures into play this way, so it gets so much value that I just love this card just because of the free stuff it gives you, because I like free stuff. Thousand Faced Shadow, a single blue. Creature Human Ninja, 1/1, with Ninjutsu, 2 blue. Flying. When it enters the battlefield from your hand, if it's attacking, create a token that's a copy of another target attacking creature. The token enters the battlefield tapped and attacking. So, you are never playing this for 1 mana. If you are, you're silly. You're going to Ninjutsu this in for 4 mana. You're going to copy your best creature on the battlefield that is attacking, and you're going to make a copy of it and get that token. So this works really well in clone decks. This works really well in just generic blue decks where you can copy a big creature that's tapped and attacking. I just love this card because it sneaks out value, and I love sneaking out value. Assassin's Ink, 2 black, instant. This spell costs 1 less to cast if you control an artifact and 1 less to cast if you control an enchantment. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. So for 4 mana, you are typically talking exile effects in black, whether it's something like Eat to Extinction, or Baleful Mastery, or you have Deadly Rollick. You don't typically just destroy them. Where this gets really good is in Commander, you almost always are going to have an artifact on the battlefield because you're playing Soul Rings, Arcane Signets, other mana rocks. You then also, a lot of times, have enchantments. Just last night, playing on my stream, I played Brea. I had Smothering Tithe, Rhystic Study, Mystic Remora, Revel and Riches. And that's in a treasures-focused deck, not an enchantment deck. So this becomes a 2-mana removal spell. Just by playing artifacts and enchantments, something that people play a lot of in Commander anyway. And a really fun one to play with this is Whip of Erebos, because that's both an enchantment and an artifact. When you're talking removal that hits both creatures and planeswalkers, that's 2 mana or less, you're going and talking ones that have mana restrictions, like Bloodchief's Thirst, that's a sorcery, but it only hits 3 or less, mana value 3 or less, unless you go and kick it, and pay the 4 mana, or you're talking something like Noxious Grasp that only hits green or white planeswalkers. This does it for 2 mana without any restrictions other than playing artifacts and enchantments, which you're doing anyway. It's fantastic value, even if you're paying 3 for it, which you're going to be, I think that's going to be the majority of the time. I think it's going to be 3. Fantastic, that's the cost of Swift End for Murderous Rider, or 2 for it. You're just going to get that value. You're very rarely going to be paying for. Dockside Chef, a single black enchantment creature human citizen, 1/2. For 1 and a black, sacrifice an artifact or creature, draw a card. I love having sacrifice outlets on the board. I love having sacrifice outlets that let me sacrifice artifacts and creatures. Because you get to the point where you might be playing food, get that food out of there. Treasures, you don't need the mana, you need cards. Get that treasure out of there. Clues, same thing. Especially if then you have a way, if you're doing something like Improvises Artifacts where you're tapping them for the mana, Galzith Prismari, Urza, whether you're playing something like Shimmer Dragon, which taps them to draw cards, you tap them to draw the card, then you get sacrifice them to draw the card. It's just really good value. And if you go back to that last card, this is an enchantment. Already knocks that cost down 1. Fable of the Mirror Breaker, 2 and a red. Create a 2/2 red Goblin Shaman creature token with whenever this creature attacks, create a treasure token. This is a saga, and that's step 1 of the saga. Step 2 of the saga, you may discard up to 2 cards if you do draw that many cards. So loot, basically. Step 3, exile it, return it transformed under your control. The backside of this is Reflections of Kiki-Jiki. It's a 2/2 enchantment creature Goblin Shaman. 1 and tapping it, create a token that's a copy of another target non-legendary creature you control, except it has haste, sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. So, I love treasures. I play treasures whenever I can. This gives me a Goblin Shaman that when it attacks, it gives you treasure. You don't even have to do that combat damage. It gives you card selection in the form of looting on step 2. And it's a fair and balanced version of Kiki-Jiki. Well, sure, you could still break this with stuff like Intruder Alarm or Staff of Domination. You still have to pay mana to activate it instead of being able to tap it for free. So I just love all the value that's here throughout the entire card. Combi of Transience, 1 and a green creature spirit, 2/2. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, put a +1/+1 counter of Combi of Transience. At the beginning of each end step, if an enchantment was put into your graveyard from the battlefield this turn, You may return it from your graveyard to your hand. So, I love this in Enchantress decks. Because Enchantress decks, they do really good at pillow forting. They don't necessarily always have a way to go and get that damage through. This lets you grow a creature to get damage through because it tramples. And in addition to that, if someone removes it, next time you cast that enchantment, you get it back onto the battlefield. Well, back into your hand, so you can re-put it back onto the battlefield. So I really like this a lot just because it's a way to go and force that aggro through. Weaver of Harmony, 1 and a green. Enchantment creature, Snake Druid. It is a 2/2 that other enchantment creatures you control get +1/+1. So it's a lord for enchantment creatures. And then for a green and tapping it, you copy target activator or trigger ability you control from an enchantment source. You may choose new targets for the copy. So, it's a lord, which is great because you're going to play enchantment creatures in your Enchantress deck, like Sithis. But you could copy things like Sithis' card draw ability, like the Sigil of Empty Thrones 4/4 Angel token ability. You're playing sagas, you could copy one of the steps on the saga. It just has so many things you copy and so much value that it's a lot of fun to go and play. And I think this is going to be a staple in an Enchantress deck, and it's an enchantment itself. Now we're at the multicolored, so we finished all that Wooburg, now we're in multicolored. Hitsugu consumes all, 1 black-red enchantment saga. Step 1, destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less. Step 2, exile all graveyards. Step 3, transform it, turn it to the battlefield under your control. The backside of it is a Vessel of the All-Consuming. Enchantment creature, Ogre Shaman. It has trample. Whenever it deals damage, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. Whenever it deals damage to a player, if it has dealt 10 or more damage to that player this turn, they lose the game. Important thing for the backside of it, it's damage for the +1/+1 counter. So if they chump block it, you still get that counter. It doesn't have to be to a player. If you go and put an enchantment on it or an artifact on it, where you go and ping somebody with it, also gets a +1/+1 counter on it. So that's something to remember for it. And I just love that because I love lose the game effects or win the game effects. It's why I play Strixhaven Stadium, even though I've yet to win with Strixhaven Stadium. It's just a lot of fun to play that. But my favorite part of it is the first step of the saga. You destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less. It punishes fast mana like Soul Rings, Mana Crypts, Mana Vaults, Moxes. It punishes token decks, whether they're creature and token decks, or treasure, clues, or food. Because you destroy all those non-land permanents. It punishes mana dorks. So if someone gets off to a fast start, you're able to go and put this down, reset their board. It just has so much value there. Then, Graveyard Hate. We don't, as Commander players, we don't play enough Graveyard Hate. So, play this. Remove graveyards. Destroy mana value 1 or less items. And then in the end, get a 3/3 body for 3 that has trample that gets bigger as you go. Jukai Naturalist, a green and a white. Enchantment creature, human monk, 2/2. This one isn't necessarily anything special. I just like it because it gives cost reduction to enchantment, so it's really good for Enchantress decks. It's a lifelink. Enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. It's very simple, very good. Now to artifacts. This is the only artifact on the list. It's a Mirror Box. 3 generic. The legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control. Each legendary creature you control gets +1/+1. Each non-token creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with the same name as that creature. This is a better mirror gallery. It is 2 mana less, doesn't give the ability to your opponent's stuff to have non-legendary, and it acts as a lord for all your legendary creatures. Also, this is fantastic in a clone deck, because all your non-token creatures that have the same name get +1/+1. Playing this in a Sakashima deck, you get to go have non-token clones, non-token creatures all with the same name. They all get +1/+1. This is great in a Relentless Rats deck, Persistent Petitioners, decks like that, because they all get +1/+1 for each other one that shares the same name. It's just a really good card, and you should be playing this in anything that makes copies or is playing multiples of the same card, like Relentless Rats or Persistent Petitioners. Now we're to our lands. Before I'm going to go into these lands, there's 3 of them. One of them is not Beseiju Who Endures. I don't think that card is as good as everybody's saying. When it comes to removing artifacts and enchantments, green is already so good at it. You don't need to be ramping your opponent to remove their artifact or enchantment by giving them a basic land. It's not worth it. It's not good enough. And I don't care that it hits non-basic lands. The reason I don't care that it hits non-basic lands is because we as Commander players, again, we don't care about non-basic lands. How many people play Strip Mine, Ghost Quarter, Field of Ruin even? So that way you're not down on land, but you put everyone else up 1. You don't. So who cares about their Cabal Coffers or the Vesuvas or their Valcuts or the Gaia's Cradles? You obviously didn't care about it before. Who cares about it that you could do it on Beseiju? That card isn't good enough to be played in Commander. 60 card formats, yes. Commander, no. Now the one that is good enough, it's the best one out of the cycle, is Otawara, Soaring City. It's the blue land. Its channel ability is 3 and a blue. Discard it, return target artifact, creature, enchantment, or its planeswalker to its owner's hand. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. The reason why I love this is because it says return target non-land without saying target non-land. So, you could go and return someone's manland, like a Crawling Barrens, Faceless Haven, Den of the Bugbear, or Mistress Factory, something like that to its owner's hand, so you're not getting hit by that. Or, where a lot of the unsummon or Fading Hope effects really go bad, is when someone plays a card like a Shia Soul of the Wild, where all their creatures become land, you can't target them anymore because now they're lands. This gets around it because they're still creatures. So I like this a lot, and this should be played in every blue deck in Commander. The other one from this cycle that I like a lot is Takenuma Abandoned Meyer. It's the black one. Its channel is 3 and a black. You discard it, mill 3 cards, then return a creature or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. Costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature you control. Black loves playing in the graveyards. It loves milling to go and get that value from returning a creature. I'm going to play this and put this in my Sir Conrad deck. It's going to be the first card from Kamigawa that I put in any deck because Sir Conrad deserves it because he's the best boy ever. You mill 3 cards, get a creature or planeswalker back. It could either be the best one they already had there, if they should have been in the graveyard to begin with, or if you're like, man, I really need to get something now, and you're just throwing a Hail Mary, you have that as well. It is such good value, and where I really analyze this, would I go and play these last 2 as spells before lands or lands before spells? Since I would play them as spells before lands, they deserve the entry because they're not actually taking up a land slot in my deck. They're taking up a spell slot that they would be getting put into anyway. Where with Beseiju, I wouldn't give that a spell slot. I would play that as a land almost all the time. So I'd just rather play the basic forest so I don't have to worry about getting back to basic or Blood Moon. So these 2, the blue and the black channel lands, best lands out of the cycles, play them both in any deck that can play them. And the final card is the Secluded Courtyard. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Tap it for a colorless. Add 1 mana of any color. You can also tap it to add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type, or activate an ability of a creature or creature card of the chosen type. So, this is perfect for tribal decks. And where I really like this for tribal decks, it doesn't say just to go and cast a creature or activate an ability of a creature. It also says creature card. So because it says creature card, you have your cycling, ninjutsu, stuff like that you do from your hand. You don't have to worry about it just being on the battlefield. Also, it gives you 1 mana of any color and it doesn't come in tapped. So in tribal decks, this is a really good card. I know tribal decks are kind of inundated with cards they can play because they have the Path of Ancestors, they have the Cavern of Souls. They already have all these good land cards to play in the decks that people might struggle to find a slot for this. I would try to find a slot for it if you're playing a tribal deck, just because it's mana of any color, comes in untapped, and it works for ninjutsu, cycling, any of the channel, any of those from the hand abilities. But that's it. These are my 15 favorite cards from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, as well as a rant about Beseiju. Tell me what you agreed with, what you didn't agree with. What are your favorite cards? I know people are going to probably come at me a little bit for my take on Beseiju, but I'm already used to it because I've had that take ever since the card was released. Until next time, just remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a great day. See ya.